Boom, 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 boom. Hey guys, what's up? We're live. Oh man, happy hump day. And what a day. Yeah, I was the only manager for half. Well, not the only manager. There was a night manager there, but and one of the in the front of house. But man, what a day. What's up, Nigel? Nigel's in first. I put your message up there on the screen during the intro. So, yeah, what's happening? What's going on? We got the Ornithopter is almost completely. I still have the figures and I still have the cockpit to finish up, but I did clear coat everything. All the flat coats, pile lines are done since last week, and we'll get down to it here in just a second. Good to see you too. So, oops, I should probably put my phone on vibrate. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I got all the wings done, everything. And what's crazy about this is with this photo etch, these receivers now are at kind of some really sharp angles. So when you put the wings in, it really makes them splay out quite nicely. Another thing that I did come across when I cut the ball joints off of the original wing here, or the original ball joint, I guess, that was inside the body, it left the pegs for the wings at a certain length. And I found out that those are too long because I had to shim some of these up, but by cutting off the hole in the back, you can't fully insert the wings. So I actually had to trim off these by about maybe roughly a 16th of an inch to maybe an 1/8 of an inch at the most. But now they all fit. And I also took off the masking. Now that I've flat coated everything on the outside and we're just ready to do some weathering, I took off all the masking so I could kind of see just how nice the glass is. And it really came out really well. It's very, very clear glass. Really some of the best glass I've seen in a plastic model kit. Anyway, I'll be pulling this off to show everybody the inside. Is also this is all glued on now. The ramp is on. The landing gear is all in place, so you can see all the way forward into the cockpit. And gotcha. No big deals. Just let that go to sleep. Anyway, so yeah, so the ramp is up. The ramp is there. There'll be 2 figures back here and 2 in the cockpit. But I guess we can get a close up of this, see what we're looking at as we get ready to start doing some more work. Let me get my glasses on here. So you can still see the shims I used in the bottom of some of these holes. And if you look at, the only one that doesn't is this back receiver. I probably could have shimmed it up a little bit, but I brought the bottom, because of the angle, I brought the bottom even with the hole down here. So I thought that was fine. And it really is, okay, it just really kicks it up at an angle. It looks like it's deeper, but it's because that's just a high angle. So I actually started doing some weathering on one of the wings here. I can kind of show that off in a sec, but I will see if you guys can, I don't know if you can see, maybe if I light it up a little bit, you can see maybe even this way. I don't know if that's going to work. Try to light it up. There we go. You can kind of see what's going on in there. And then if we go this direction, so it's a little difficult because it's such a narrow hallway, so it's a little difficult to see up there, but it's all there. It's all good. So I'm going to set this aside and kind of show you what I started on this wing. So I'm actually using some weathering masters to start with. Because of the scale of this, I don't really have to do any chipping. I could do some little minor chipping, some small, but it'd have to be really small. I mean, this is 1/72 scale, so think about it. You got a figure that stands 1/2 inch tall. A small little microscopic chip is going to be the size of a silver dollar in this scale. So that's why I probably won't do that. I'll just probably end up using these. And I've actually picked up some new sets recently. Got some new colors. This one has gunmetal, titanium, and copper. I'll be using the gunmetal. And then oil stain is my go-to for some of the darker stains. What's up? Hey, dude. I see it's Isaiah's back. How you doing, man? So anyway, what I started doing on this wing, you can see the lines that go from front to back. Those I've darkened up a little bit with oil stain. And then on the edge, it's kind of hard to see, but on the very edge, we use some of that titanium. And it look, because that's the leading edge of these wings, so those are going to take the most abuse, kind of like a helicopter would, zipping through the air. You're going to have the wing, the forward-facing wing surface, or that propeller or whatever, is going to take some of that. Especially with sand, there's going to be quite a few chipping things going on. So I'm going to continue using oil stain on that. We'll do this first, and then I'll do some more of that chip or that silver and gunmetal on there. Happy Wednesday, that's right. Got 2 more days this week over with. Then I'm gone for a few. Because this weekend is the last week of the Renaissance Fair. And then I got to tear down on Monday. And Tuesday's my recovery day. So looks like I'll probably end up using this stand after all. I'm going to go to a little bit further back here so we can see. Use a sponge for chipping and fine. I didn't do any chipping on this, Nigel. What's up, George? Mr. Old School is in the house. How you doing? So I will end up using this stand. Even though it's a basic stand, I kind of want to get done with this project and move on, since it's not a commission or anything like that. I'm just going to paint this and seal up the seams really nicely. Plus, it gives a nice, good angle because it is adjustable here at the top. Jimmy George. Let me go to back to the close-up here. So there's an angle adjustment here with this. So if I do it at this angle, and I had to modify this bottom piece to fit this in there. Let's see if I can get it to stay. It doesn't fit terribly tight. Oops, am I doing? No, I'm doing it right. Doesn't fit really tight. That's the thing. Because I had to actually cut these pieces into it myself because there wasn't any in this bottom for this landing gear piece. I had to modify it to accommodate this stand. I'm trying to just get it to stay in there. Why don't it go? There we go. Nope, it's not tight enough. We'll just hold it on there for right now. So there we go. So you can see it pitches up the, oh gosh, I just bumped it. I wanted to fall off. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to tighten up those receivers a little bit where these 2 notches, because again, this piece was supposed to be, if you look at this one, okay, you can see these 2 holes. That was for this piece, but this one didn't have it because it's made for the landing gear to be up, not in a down position, or maybe I've got that backwards. But anyway, so I cut those notches into this one so I could use the landing gear like it's taking off, like it's in the middle of folding up. So if I go to this, you can kind of see angle a little bit better. It pitches the tail up pretty nicely. So there's actually quite a good, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let me go to this view, and then you'll see what we're talking about. So, and then if I bring this up, don't drop it. So you can see how well it kind of pitches the tail up. So you've got a good view of that ramp where those 2 figures will be. So, and then it'll just be a basic sandy paint job, and I might actually put some, it's not smooth. It's actually, I don't know if it looks like it might, almost looks like it's warped, but it's actually made to look like a sand dune. So there's some low spots in the base. If you go down here, you can see there's like low spots and high spots. So I might add a little tuft of grass or something here and there. But that's basically what we're looking at. I thought the titanium on the blades was a bit of chipping. Oh, well, yeah, that was just done with. I was just done with the weathering master here. I just barely took. I just did the edge of. You see, like right there. I did the edge in some random places just with that little applicator, and it looks like looks like wear and tear on the blade. So that's what I was going for. So I'm gonna take this off before I drop it again. Anyway, how's everybody's day going so far, or week for that matter? Mine has been kind of a nightmare. Well, not really. Just today was chaotic. We got 2 managers gone, and it was pretty much myself for a good chunk of the day, doing a lot of reports and stuff. It just time consuming. So I'm not going to do too much because the scale, like I said, the scale of this is, I'm just going to do some basic streaking from front to back like you would on a wing of an airplane. There'll be some random lines going across the top and the bottom. Stressful yet decent at the same time. Yeah. Stressful is true. We've just got a lot of people pulling you in all directions. That's the thing. I think it's difficult because everybody's going, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you take care of this? And then got to try to answer to all those requests at the same time. I'm trying to do reports for stuff I've got to prep for Friday, and and plus I'm new at it, so I'm not nearly as quick as some of the other managers, and so just trying to get through the process without going crazy. You know, head cold. Whoa, not the best this week. Yeesh. Yeah, that's not good. I hate colds. Head colds especially because they just everything, stuffy and just everything sucks. So you can kind of see there's some faint lines there. It doesn't show up as much in person. The camera picks up a lot more than you can actually see. But I want to start with this because I want to do some more of that silver or that titanium. Actually, it's gunmetal. That really makes this, kind of completes this whole thing. I'm only using the edge of this because this is it's a new kit, so there's a pretty potent color. I don't have to apply a bunch. And it's just grabbing that edge and letting it almost kind of scrape off that pigment off the applicator. And you can even go across because there's a beveled edge. It's like a sharp point on the top and bottom. So you can actually grab just that top edge as you come back, and it'll leave. It's almost like dry brushing across the surface. Plus I'm grabbing that very front edge. So it does make it look like some chipping. It's quite nice little effect. These things years ago when I first bought these, I was like, yeah, they're pastels. They're kind of weird, but man, they're worth their weight. They definitely, the more and more I use them every time, they definitely, for a basic weathering technique, it gets the job done. You don't have to get crazy. Give a bit of sanded effect from all the Dune and oh yeah, I'm going to use pigment too. This is just the first step. I've got dry pigments that I will end up putting all over this and collecting dust here and there. It'll definitely have its fair share of dirt. This is just kind of like the staining part of it, and then I'll go back over and I'm going across the top too in some places, so you'll see like an extra. It's almost like a longer chip. It'll go across that edge and across the top of the wing, kind of giving that effect of years and years of abuse. There's going to be, especially in sandy, dirty places, there's going to be quite a bit of wear and tear on these moving parts. Once I get done with the wing, this side of the wing, I'll bring it up to the camera again so you guys can see a little bit closer. It's pretty thin out here on the wingtip. Okay, now we can show off this front edge. See, by doing the darker color first and then going over with the silver, it's almost like a chipping effect that I used to do. It's when I use paint, I'll go on with a darker color that kind of looks like a primer, and then primer underneath the paint, and then you use some silver over the top of that to kind of indicate or simulate those deeper chips that go down to bare metal. But this is just more of almost like dry brushing across the edge. Do I need to seal them? Yes, you can. You don't have to, but I most likely will give it a quick flat coat just to kind of seal it. I'm not going to spray it too heavily because then it might tend to wash out the pigment. I just basically want to hit it with a light mist, and that will just kind of hold them. I could use a fixer on them. There's especially if you're using dry pigment, I'll use a pigment fixer, which is kind of it's a liquid form of thing, but it also changes the color. So I want to keep the colors the same, without going too deep, because if you do get a little bit of extra pigment fixer on there, it will darken it up quite a bit. Just the last bits here close to the receiver, and then we'll do the other side. And there's kind of a raised section in the back here. The back edge of the wing has another raised section. Some of these chips, or for that matter, that go across, I'm going to continue, grabbing that high edge there, and just because obviously sand and rocks are going to fly through, and they're going to hit all these moving surfaces, especially the wings. I'll kind of do the same on. I mean, the body won't have as many. I'm going to do some exhaust effects here in the back of behind the engines. There's some exhaust there. I'm putting some soot on there, but won't be as much chipping. Maybe on the nose cone a little bit, but these wings are flapping so fast, like a dragonfly. They're going to take abuse a lot more than the rest of the aircraft. All right, so I think that's a good start. You don't want to go too overboard. Sometimes less is more. You need to find some testers, metalizer, sealer. I need you. You'll find some testers. I use very minimal testers products anymore. Used to use the enamels, but now I've been able to get some Tamiya enamels, so I'm using those instead. Those work nice. Now these are labeled too. These wings are labeled top and bottom. So because there was a difference on when assembling this, the wings would rotate when they were folded back. The top ones are supposed to rotate like 180 degrees before they fold back. So I didn't know if that was going to affect how they go in. So I made sure that I marked the top ones and which ones go in the bottom receiver. So just in case there was any fitment issues with, whether or not they were on the top or the bottom, I wanted to make sure they went in the same holes. So now we're going to do the other side of the wing here. Now these, you can handle this. I mean, if I was to handle this a lot, it would would start to rub this stuff off. But if I can always touch it up. I don't need to worry too bad about it. But yeah, these are just pastels with like a makeup applicator, so they will rub off eventually if you handle them continuously. But I'm just kind of lightly holding on, so it should be fine. My keyboard is a bit small. A new phone. Double clicking keys. Oh, so you're messaging me on your phone. Yeah, that's called fat finger. Happens to me all the time. I could use soot, but I think the oil stain seems to work really, really well for this kind of weathering, because it has almost a little bit of brown in it rather than just straight black. The soot tends to be a lot darker, and I think I like the oil stain better because it's a little more dirty looking rather than just straight up black oil, or like soot, like burnt black. I like the way the oil stain looks because it's easier to blend the edges of it too. You get your line going or whatever, like I'm doing, and then I'm just kind of blending it out with a different part of the. I'm putting the pigment on one side, and then if I need to blend it, I can use the edge of it, or if I can just grab another one. Because I bought some just regular makeup applicators, a bag of them, because the ones that come with these tend to wear out after use them for a while. So it's good to have some extras on hand. All right, pretty much done with just the oil stain here. Maybe a couple more here. I'm not putting a lot on, I'm just going. I mean, as far as on the applicator, if I scrub the hell out of this, I'll get a lot of transfer. I don't want to transfer too much on at a time. I'd rather just get small amounts. You can always add more. It's a lot easier to add a little more. I mean, you can take these off. You can even use enamel thinner. If you get too much on, you can wipe it off. But I just find it easier to just start small and yep, fat finger. Telling you, man, it's a thing. Especially when you got big old monkey paws like me. I'm always when I type, I don't type very fast. Anyway, I never took a typing class in high school. I just learned my own methods as I went, but there's people at work, everybody just blasts through their types a lot faster than I do, but still I have issues because it's got big hands, man. It's hard to get a keyboard that works well. Yeah, this is working out nice because it's just, even the ones I take the longer strokes I'm putting on here, they make nice thin lines. They look like something that would be traveling through airspace, and taking on damage over time because of the amount of, the high rate of speed. And not only are they flying fast in a straight line, but the wings are flapping quite fast. If you haven't watched the movie, I recommend doing it. It was very good. For years, I never watched them. Even the originals, I never really watched it because they were so long. And I think when the originals came out, I was a lot younger, and I was trying to sit through a movie like that. Maybe I'll go back now and watch them. But I finally watched the new ones, and they were actually really pretty good. I liked it. Not what I expected. There's certain characters you see in the beginning, like a movie like this, you think, oh, this is going to be main character to the end, but then one guy ends up getting killed pretty early on. So it's like, wow, didn't expect that. All right, so I think we're done. I mean, that's pretty quick work of these wings, just to get that edge with a little bit of that. Little bit of that. So now I've finished that. I'm going to move on to, I'm going to do some of the body here. This will also be, there's going to be some, especially these high points on the cockpit frame. Those are where you're going to see some chipping, some of that damage maybe. But then there's also going to be some exhaust work here with these exhaust nozzles. And then I think in the back, there's also, to me, that looks like exhaust. So we'll end up doing some soot and some oil stain back there. And then I'll be doing a little bit of that silver maybe on the edges of the landing gear, just where there would be some chipping perhaps. The new one's good for the SFX and vehicle designs. The original movie. Oh, I got you. Much better for acting and accuracy in the books. Oh, I got you. So the movies, yeah. The old ones are good for vehicle design, huh? I think Meng also actually do. I know they do. This is the Atreides Ornithopter. And what's the other clan? I can't remember what they're called. But they also make their Ornithopter, a model kit. So I might actually build one of those. That would be fun to build both of them. Theirs are a lot fatter, much more beefier design than the Atreides. The Atreides one is quite slender in design. It's more aerodynamic, it seems like, whereas the Harkonnens, yeah, that's who they are. They're a lot fatter looking, but I did find somebody posted one online saying, hey, you should build this one. But the only thing is I didn't find a photo etch set for it because it's a totally different design, so I'm not even sure they make one. But as far as I know, I checked Squadron, the same place I found the photo etch set for this one. I checked there; they don't have. Didn't even give me an option. There's it just doesn't exist for the Harkonnens, Harkones, or whatever you want to call them, for their ornithopter. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm just starting on the body. I'm doing some of the higher points. I know I did some pre-shading with this using the black primer, but I didn't bring out a lot of that pre-shade from underneath. I didn't go, some people do really heavy pre-shading. I prefer more of the subtle kind of pre-shading where you can see it, but it's subtle enough that you still get that shadowing effect, but it's not just overly done. I think there is a limit to pre-shading that you can kind of go too extreme. So what I'm doing is just by going over the edges, I'm bringing out, not even chipping this stuff, I'm just bringing out that that wear, a little bit of wear on some of the points that are going to collect, wear and tear and damage more than something that's less exposed. Like these sharper edges are going to have that, like especially across like this point of the canopy, right on this corner there. Make that nice and dark, because that's where you're going to get a lot of that. I still haven't glued on this canopy yet. This will come off, partially because I have to clean the glass inside a little bit. There was some dust and stuff in there, and I used some enamel thinner on a Q-tip to kind of get in there. Actually, I could probably use some alcohol, some isopropyl alcohol instead. But I went in there and just wiped off the glass lenses. But I wanted to, when I weathered this, I want to make sure that my weathering blends from panel to panel nicely. If I do them separate, you can kind of end up having either one that's too dark, one that's not dark enough. And when you put it back together, you'll start to see those color variations. So by doing this together now, everything's going to blend, be good. Apparently Meng makes the Harvester. Yeah, I've seen the Harvester in 135 as well. I wish it would be nice if they made one in 172nd, but it would be massive. It'd be as big as this table, probably. I mean, I'm trying to think of how big the Harvester was in the movie. Yeah, I don't think it's possible to make a 172. So 135th, that's at least half the size, half scale. So that's half the scale of 172. I mean, you could do a forced perspective type diorama. Like I think I remember seeing somebody do that when these movies first came out. Is probably the Meng kit that somebody bought, but I did see someone build what looked like the worm, and they had the Harvester down in the mouth, and what they used for the mouth of the worms, it looks almost like it's very, very thin hairs, almost like he used like pasta, and had this big ring with all these spaghetti noodles kind of coming in to make it look like the mouth. At least that's what I thought was used. It looked like that was probably what was used. But I thought it was pretty good. And it was forced perspective. So you had the Ornithopter in the foreground, and then the 135 scale Harvester in the back getting swallowed up. So I thought that was quite creative. I saw that. That was a few years back. I'm going to get I've got some extra applicators here. Let's see. I'm going to get a clean one out. So if I do end up getting too much of this on, you can use yourself, get yourself a bag of these guys. But if you do end up with too much of these weathering pigments on there, you can take a clean one and just go over there, and it'll take it right off. You can see, you can't really see the color, but there it is. You can see that. It took a little bit off. Yeah, just got a little too much on that edge, so let's go back over it with a clean one and reduce the amount you got on there. Again, this is just kind of highlighting the edges. What's up, Julius? Checking in from San Diego tonight. 36-hour trip. Nice. You hanging out with San Diego Gunpla down there? What are you doing down in San Diego? That's cool. It's kind of close to my old stomping ground. I grew up in Dana Point, which is about an hour north, I think, of San Diego. Maybe less. I mean, it should be less speaking geographically, but with all the traffic, it takes that much longer to get there. Yeah, see, I'm getting a little carried away here, so that's why I have these clean ones, just so I can kind of wipe off any excess if I do get a little too close or a little too much. So like I was saying earlier, I got the last weekend of the Renaissance Fair this weekend. And then Monday is teardown. I'm taking Monday off so I can tear down. And I've got Tuesday off as well as a recovery day because it's going to be just a busy, busy weekend. Got a friend of ours flying in town from Arizona. Gonna spend a weekend with us out there too. So one of our old fair buddies, girlfriends we've had for years, wants to come out and hang out with us. So we got her some tickets in there, and it's going to be busy because tomorrow after work I got to go out to the site and open the camp, put the rugs out. It's not supposed to rain, so we're going to kind of try to pre-prep the camp that we would normally set up Friday nights, but we're going to try to do it Thursday because Friday is when she flies in, and we've got to we got to have time to pick her up. My wife's going to pick her up from the airport, and then hang out Friday night. So we want to get as much done as we can, like on Thursday, so we don't have to do that on Friday. It's going to make sense. This applicator is getting worn out. I'm going to have to bust out a new one. I think I've got a baggie somewhere around. Oh, I can see it right now. There it is. I was going to say I have a bag of these that I've used before for various colors, doing what I was talking about doing, where one side I use to apply and then the other side I use to take off the excess if I got a little too much. So I'll retire that one for a bit. I got this one here. That one's got blue on the other side. Well, maybe I'll just use one of my new ones. It's kind of amazing how a brand new applicator works way better than the one that's just chewed up. Again, I'm still going over those high edges just to kind of bring out those and then I'll even do some horizontal streaking like with this too, like from traveling through airspace. You're going to have got oil leaks or something, or fluid leaks of any kind, or you're going to collect moving down the fuselage as you're flying through airspace. So it's not a fast process. It can be, but I tend to just take my time. So how is it down in San Diego? It's probably pretty hot. California is usually pretty hot right now. Yep, let's see here. I also got to be careful too, because I those resin pieces that are on the inside that go behind these receivers, those had to glue. There's like a keyway, so they go in one direction. They're what they call it, Scotch keyed or whatever. They're keyed to fit one direction, but they're glued in from the inside. And then when I was pressing these on, or when I was putting the wing in, and that pin was too long, I heard one of them crunch a little bit like it was trying to break. I was like, "Roo, stop right away." It felt like it was gonna. If it comes loose, I'm not gonna have any way. I mean, I imagine I could figure it out, but it's gonna be very difficult to get back in there and re-glue it back in place because now that that interior is all installed. There's no getting back in there except through the front. Like through the canopy. You're trying to go into the. I think it was this one of the top ones on the left side, but it kind of crunched, and I thought, oh, if it comes off, it's going to be really difficult to get it back in there. So now I've kind of darkened up most of the corners, the front of this. I got a little bit more to do on this side, especially right down here. I built an A10. Let's put that on the screen. 81 today. Went to Mission Beach for a swim. Humid, but the ocean was very cool. Didn't last long in the water. Yeah, I remember a few times where the water got up to like in the 70s. It was crazy when I grew up there, and that was so cool going to the beach and just jumping in, not even having to worry about the water. But yeah, it's kind of as hot as it gets. You think the water would warm up, but it takes a lot to get the water to warm up that much, where it's noticeably warmer. So we built an A10 Warthog a few years ago. Weathered the underside really heavily, like it was basically black. Oh no! Lots of people said it was too much until I indicated. Until you actually show them a photo. Yeah, sometimes it's good to have that kind of research. Just ready and waiting, because there's always some rivet counter somewhere that's gonna. And that's why my Abrams tank, I think, didn't win anything, because I never built it to be 100% accurate. And some of the IPMS, I mean, we haven't had one this year because of the group kind of had an issue and they couldn't find a venue or something. They kind of imploded, so they canceled everything. But I never intended it to be that accurate. So when I submitted it, I told them, I said, it's not 100% accurate. They should base it off of build quality and everything like that. They shouldn't be looking for rivet counters where you have to have photographic evidence to prove your model. It should be based off of your skill levels and how clean the model is, regardless of what whether it's accurate or not. But I guess unless that's part of the subject matter where they're trying to. There's a category where maybe it's a special category because some of those they'll have a theme where that category is a certain genre or certain vehicle. Then of course, okay, fine. Go for accuracy. You know what I mean? Because you're entering into something that is based off of a certain type. So there's going to be a certain color or whatever to that build it needs to be. But when it comes to just like a general, like mine was the M1A1 Abrams, but I had all these photo etch parts on it for the Abrams, but it was probably a newer version or older version of the tank, and I was building a newer version. I had parts from new and old, so it never was intended to be 100% accurate. So, but it did, didn't win anything. And if I imagine correctly, it's probably because of that. You get some guy, a judge that's a little too into the, everything has to be 100% accurate, and start counting rivets and disqualify you right away from winning anything before it's even judged, because it's not 100% accurate. So, but it happens. There's a common Google photo of an inverted A-10, super dirty underside. Most aircraft are. I was really surprised when I was building the F-14, the Tamiya 148 F-14A. I did a lot. Looked at a lot of photographs online. There was even a website that had a lot of, up close photographs while I was on the ground, from the interior to the grills to everything. So I used a lot of stuff as reference, and I was surprised at just how dirty most aircraft are. Even the high tech, new ones, the Gen 5 fighters or whatever you want to call them. Even they, got their fair share of leaks and all sorts of stuff like that. All right, I'm going to switch over to soot just for a minute because I want to use that for the exhaust. So I'm going to open up. Let's see, I think I can use this one. Move this out of the way. Yeah, I've used soot quite a bit. Starts to get down here, on the surface, it's more of a greasy kind of a pastel, and then as you get down deeper, it starts to get more crumbly and dry. That could be just because they're old too, but I don't leave them open like this. I always close them up. Spitfires had super dirty undersides after the engines. Yeah. Well, you didn't have like catalytic converters or exhaust systems that were designed to clean up the exhaust. It just didn't happen. That stuff was straight up exhaust, right out of the pipe. So yeah, really, really, really dirty. So I'm doing these exhaust here. I'm going to do a little bit back here too as well, because as you get this transfer of soot that's coming out of these vents, these louvered kind of exhaust, I'm assuming they're like exhaust vents, you're going to be some transfer behind it. So I like to just make a little shadow behind it. The tricky part is getting up right up next to that nozzle. That's why I always have a clean one, just in case I get a little too much. Go back over it, kind of fade that line out a little bit better. Now I'm just going over the edges of those nozzles, just like the high corners of the fuselage that I was darkening up. I'm darkening up the edges of this because as you get exhaust, there's going to be a collection of soot around the edges of those nozzles, especially. The only thing that was clean all the time was the canopy. Well, yeah, that's what you had ground crew for. You always had ground crew there to clean up the glass and the canopies. They got to be able to see. That's true with any aircraft you see. You're going to have this dirty, just oil leaking, ridden. Doesn't matter if it's a modern jet or an old Corsair, canopies are always going to be clean. Ground crews are there. That's what they're there for. To keep it nice without having to Oh, I missed this one. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, Nigel said competition, I think, of weathering should be considered artistic license. If it's too much or not enough, it's still quality of the finish. Yeah, that's true. And again, judging is subjective by, always, but still. It depends on who's looking at your kit, All right, that's pretty good looking. Okay. That's the oil stain. All right, now, just for a little bit, I'm going to take this, I'll close this, I'm going to bring out the gunmetal again, and just do a little bit, just to see. Ground crews are so underrated. Without them, the Battle of Britain would have been lost. Yeah, very true. All right, let's see what we got here. Just going to do a tiny bit on some of these edges of the canopy here. Mostly just on those corners again. It was really just a spot here and there. Just where you'd have a little bit more wear and tear, especially around this high corner here. But then I can just go just kind of randomly across that front edge. You know what? I gotta redo that. So I'm just going to go, especially because there's quite a few edges up here. in the front. So I'm just going to just very sparingly go over these edges. I'll probably have to redo this a little bit because I'm going to have to take this canopy off. So, and I did pull the tape already. So unless I remask all of this, which I doubt that's going to happen. Might be the only way to seal it properly where it won't come off with the fingerprints. All right, now I'm going to do a little bit on the just here and there on the edges of this landing gear. That should kind of make these pop a little bit. Again, it's almost like dry brushing with a metallic paint. You're just catching some of the high areas that are more exposed than others, and the low stuff, stays protected behind. Canopy masking masks the black frame sits off well. Yeah, that's one of the things I did is I masked off the glass pieces first, and then I painted the frame on those. I had to cut the mask down on each piece by about 0.5 millimeter maybe, because that was the frame of each one of those lenses. So the masking that came in the kit was designed. Well, it didn't come in this kit. It was the masking set I bought, but it was designed to go over the entire piece of glass, including the outer frame. And you could see that the frame, it was edged. The frame was, there was edging around it. So not only the canopy piece also had a frame molded into it. You could see the lines all around. So I masked that off, painted those black, and then I painted the frame black. So on the glass. So when I snapped those in, those hard teeth, that hold the glass in, that was the biggest thing that most people complain about, was these big notches that hold the glass in. Those almost disappear. You can see them a little tiny bit, but definitely not as much as if they were still clear. So it was worth taking the extra effort to do the canopy masking for sure. All right. Still moving along here, just grabbing some of these edges with a little bit of that silver. Now then we'll go back and dust all this with dry pigments and stuff. It'll really finish this off nice. You'll still be able to see some of that metallic underneath, but those edges at least will be, everything else will be dusty. Yo, what's up? What's up, Boba? How's it going? just doing some weathering. Using titanium? No, gunmetal. It's pretty light. It's almost, I was talking about using silver because they do make one with silver, but this was one of the new kits I bought recently because I wanted some of the other weathering colors, the odd stuff like the greens and some of the other colors that you don't normally use. So I just bought a new set that had all of them because I needed replacements for some of these, like the A, B, and C kits, the ones that you go to mostly. Some of those pastels are really getting beat up, so I wanted to get some replacements for those. So I found Amazon, I think there was all A through G for a pretty decent price. So I ended up getting the whole set rather than just the ones I was trying to find because I already had the others, but it's like I'm always going to go back and use those again. So it just made sense. I may end up gluing that piece in because the stand, I don't know why this doesn't stay. It was pretty tight before, but I'm not sure why it's not easy to get off of that part. But I cut this because I had to modify this piece because of the angle of where it fits into the bottom. See, it fits pretty tightly if you can push on it in the right place. I wonder if that's easier to get on. Let's see. So then I just come up here and do. The problem is that one of the landing gear feet kind of gets in the way. It looks like I can work around it. Yeah, like that. There we go. Ooh, that's a steep angle though. It's too steep. It's like pointing at the ground. Let's try that again. I'll get that like that. And then there we go. Yeah, see, that's better. That's nice and strong. So I may just end up gluing that that connector piece into the bottom of the ornithopter. That way I can take it off the side. You just wiggle it off. It'll come off, leaving that piece underneath. I don't have to worry about trying to jam it in the bottom all day long. But in the meantime, you have a few weathering powder sets, but use the chalk sets a lot. Yeah, I don't use chalk ones, but I do have pigments. They're dry pigments, and they're an intense powder. You have to be careful because you can overdo them really quick. Actually, so you got to definitely put them on with a brush, a paintbrush. I have one brush that I use specifically for pigments. Just grabbing the edges of all these landing gear bits. So just trying to highlight some of the high spots, because this is going to get dusty as well. So what little you see here will actually, some of it will go away as we plus you're going to have paint chipping and stuff like that too with any moving parts like this. If you've ever seen a aircraft landing gear, there's always something that's all rusty, because of all the moving parts. Because no matter how well you paint something, as soon as you start rubbing parts together, the paint's going to come off. So and then there's rust and stuff, but not worried too much about rust as far as this kit's concerned, because this was out in the desert on a dune planet, so not a ton of moisture around to get rusty. So I'm not going to concern myself too much about that. But and then if you guys joined me last week, you got to see the next project is going to be a commission over a Ghost in the Shell for a friend of mine named David. And yeah, that's going to be fun. Because not only have I not done any kind of anime figure kit before, I have several and I just never took one out and unboxed it to kind of do that sort of thing. It's you doing anime or any kind of flesh tones is really new to my arsenal, so that'd be fun to try something like that for the first time. I can do a little bit more of this silver just on some of the mechanical bits on the side here. Not a lot. And even this model is pretty flat right now, as far as like the color is flat paint. Painted pretty flat, but my camera picks up any reflection at all, makes it look almost shiny again. It's really not. So now we can even use a little bit of that silver over the top of these in combination with that soot, because there would be some chipping on this. Excuse me. It's a nice combination when you have that soot color and then you got the chipping and the silver over the top of that, because it makes it look very much very realistic, like exhaust chipping. All right. It's looking pretty good for the first layer of weathering. Again, I won't be doing any actual chipping on this, just because the scale would just be too small. I could do little tiny dots. I mean, Nigel, I think, mentioned sponge, but even a sponge may not give me small enough dots to make it look like realistic chipping. So we're not going to do that for now. We'll take this off again here. Let me just come on. I'm trying to get there we go. You have to grip it just right. So this turned out well. You can see the handrails inside because the windows are supposed to open up. That's all photo etch in there. So the glass is meant to open up, and then there's a handrail that you would pull down. So those were all installed and painted separately. And then, like I said, I still have the pilot's chair and the console, and then a figure to put in this seat, and then 2 figures to put on this side of the ramp. Here's the console again. This will sit. So I can do this. So when this is glued down, it sits right there in front, and it just barely fits inside the nose of that. It's crazy how close they got it. And then I've got the seat itself that I have to glue down. But all that stuff has to be done in steps, because in order for me to figure out how far forward the pilot has to sit in the seat, how far where the seat's going to go, I got to put the console in so he can have his legs and his feet in the pedals. And then I've got another figure. She's leaning over, kind of looking out the windows to the left of the ornithopter. And then, of course, the 2 figures that are being rescued essentially last minute before they take off. They're pulling themselves up the ramp into the... So I can show you, I guess. Let's see here. I have some reference photos of it. So here's the figures. Get rid of that. So here's the figures that I bought, the figure set. So you see the 2, looks like they're on the bottom there. That's holding themselves, that's pulling themselves up the ramp. And then you've got upper left is the girl sitting in the seat behind the pilot, and then the one on the right, upper right, that's the actual pilot. But the scene is right here. This is a screenshot of the movie. So basically on the back of the ramp, being pulled up in, and you can see the harvester in the background. That was the kind of that forced perspective idea I was talking about that I thought I saw, where the harvester is just being eaten. I don't know if I have another angle of that. I don't think I do. No, it doesn't look like I got another. Oh, here's sort of another angle. Yeah, I think this is actually the other side. It's really dusty though, so it's hard to see, but you can see the figures as they're pulling themselves up into up the ramp there. So that's what we're going for. And I've got to go through and fix the seam on this. These were 2 pieces that came together. So there is a seam, and it looks like, I didn't intend initially to use this, so I didn't do my best to glue it. So I'm going to have to fill that and sand it. Looks like I got a nib there too, but I'll get those seams filled up. And then, I never realized it almost looks like the plastic is warped, but it's not. It's just there's the way they made the sand look. It's like a dune. There's little high and low spots on the base. So it's plain base, but still you can easily make it look nice. And I'll put some of it, like one or 2 of these little ones on there. Use some little tufts of grass. even though there's not a lot of plant life in the desert, but one or two of those will finish off that base nicely enough. Always wanted to build a force perspective box. Yeah. My buddy wants to do, and I hope he still does it someday. He wants to do a Star Wars like trench run where you have like maybe a 172 scale X-wing in the front, and then you've got smaller scale ones in the background coming down the trench, which would be kind of cool if you could pull it off. Takes up a lot of table space, but well worth it if you do it right. So anyway, what else can we do here? I guess we can start working on more of the wings and let this piece sit for a bit. So I got this one done. I guess we'll start doing another. There's 8 of them. Got to do 8 of these darn things. Could build this thing so you guys can kind of see how it goes together. Let me just put the canopy back on. This is has to be lined up just perfectly, so it's a little bit tricky at first, but once it pops down in there, you kind of hear that positive feel as it goes right. This one's the top one, so we're going to do this one here. And since I cut these down, they do fit quite good. Before there was only like 1 or 2 of them that went in far enough, maybe not even that, and the rest of them did not. But these have to sit a certain way. Yeah, I think I'll probably, I don't know if I'll, see now, the back ones, see the bottom ones are supposed to fold straight back. This is what the big difference is. Now this top one will not fold back unless you rotate it 180 degrees and then it folds back. That's the way the original kit was designed. And I don't know, I know that's from the movie. They actually show that when they first take off. You see that effect where their wings are, they unfold quite quickly. But you do actually see that. So let me, yeah, you can see it alone. I mean, just let me go to the plans of Star Wars trench on the, oh yeah, I think you told me about that. I think you showed me something like that. So I'm going to go to this one so you can kind of see just how big the wingspan is on this thing. It's pretty massive. So 4 more. And these are labeled for top and bottom. Gosh, this one is really tight. I'm really afraid to put a lot of pressure on these because I don't want those receivers to get pushed in. Some of them fit tighter than others. Might have to just sand that edge down a little bit. So this is another one that goes on the bottom. Yeah, see, that one goes right in. It's weird. Like some of them are really snug and then other ones are just kind of go right in without any issue. Oops, this one's backwards. I just realized that. So this is supposed to go that way. This long edge goes to the front. Gosh darn it. It's so hard to get in there. It's kind of scary. There you go. I don't even know if you can catch that in all the frame there. That's how big these wings are. This thing is just massive. So this was going to take up quite a bit of table space too, just by the wings alone. I currently don't have any space for this. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but We'll figure it out. See if I can get this thing back apart now. But since I trimmed those, they do fully seat now, which is fine because there's actually a lip in the bottom of these, where they're supposed to fully seat. They weren't going in. I didn't realize that they would be, that would be an issue. And these top ones are really snug, so I'm going to have to maybe sand those just slightly, just to. I mean, they're glued in nicely, but I just don't know how those shims behind it are going to be affected. Anyhow, all right. It's a little nerve-wracking doing that on camera because you never know if something's going to break. Oh, I've had my issues. I've had things break on camera before too. I remember once I was doing that hanger diorama and I knocked off the canopy because part of the hanger fell on it and just knocked it right off. That wasn't fun to fix because there's two little hinges, little baby hinges that kind of hold that canopy in place, and getting it to sit in the right angle, and then not being able to hold it. I almost had to do a balancing act really just to balance it up there, and then attach it, let it dry, not even touch it. Just I had to balance it so it wouldn't move, and then I could let it dry on its own. Leave it. I almost had to prop up the model at an angle so I could balance the canopy on the hinge. That was the photo etch hinges that come in a photo etch set for those 148 Valkyries from Asagawa. There was little tiny metal hinges for the canopy, and you have to glue them to the back behind the pilot seat, just to get the right angle, just so the canopy will stay in the open position. That's another one I was kind of disappointed in because I was really proud of that hanger diorama. I thought it came out really well. And I took that to IPMS, and just like nobody didn't even get considered for anything. I don't know if that was a category issue because they're kind of confusing when it comes to what's considered a diorama and what's a vignette. So a diorama is considered to be like two or more models on a single base, whereas a vignette would be a single model on the base. And so it was, do you count each one of the figure, what do you call it, like the flight crew? Are those considered models too, each one of them? Or is it just, so I didn't know if I was supposed to be in vignettes or supposed to be in dioramas, and I think I put it in dioramas, so I don't know. It just, I wish I'd done better. I guess there's nothing stopping me from taking it again because not only that, but I had the Valkyrie powered up. There was lights in the Valkyrie. There was lights on the hangar, all powered up by one or two. No, I think it was just one 9-volt battery. I thought it took a lot of planning and a lot of engineering to get that power up that. I bet there were a few choice words spoken when you did that, huh? Yeah. Oh, when I knocked the canopy off? Yeah. I don't remember. I know it was on camera. I was doing a live stream when it happened, so I think I probably said it to myself in my head more than I did on screen. But yeah, I was not happy, and I was trying to just place the model on the, it'd been dried for a while, so it wasn't like I just glued it on there, but I was trying to place the model on the base to kind of give the viewers an idea of what the finish was going to look like. And I was a piece of the hanger. It was just like part of the framing around it, a railing on the top. Something fell off and just knocked it right off. But I was able to glue it back on. It wasn't. I mean, in the end of the day, I was able to repair it, but it was still kind of like, man, it took forever to get that thing lined up just right and get the right angle, and then to knock it off and have to redo it. That was just not cool. I always thought vignette were for single figures. Dioramas usually for vehicles and multiple figures. Well, yeah. Again, it depends on whose rules are rules, because the way a vignette, I was described the same way. A vignette was a single model on a diorama base. Some kind of a diorama, not just sitting on the table. That's obviously not a vignette. A vignette has to tell some kind of story, but it's a single model. At least that's the way IPMS out here was doing it. And a diorama was more than one model. Well, the thing is like, what do you consider a model? Is a figure that you painted, like a flight crew, is that considered a model that makes it a diorama? That was the question. So I put it where I thought it belonged, and maybe it was in the wrong place. I don't know. But if that was the case, then why didn't the judges move it? Or request to have it moved to a different table? That's my thought on that. If it was on the wrong table, because I was busy helping other people do that too. There was a guy who thought that he painted his Gundam with, he just did a custom paint scheme. There was nothing else about it that made it custom other than the paint, and that's not considered customized. Because you can paint anything. You can paint it pink if you wanted to, and it's still the base model is the same. Customizing would, is where you're adding either armor or scribing or plastic strips here and there, whatever. That's customization. And he was putting his on custom table, and I was trying to tell him, I was like, no, man, you're going to do better over here. You're better off putting it in the out of box category rather than on the modified, because it was called modified. He thought he had modified it. It's like, no, you didn't modify anything. Paint is not a modification. You personalized it. You made it yours by putting custom paint on it, but that doesn't make it modified. So, and I even asked one of the judges, like, am I right about this? And he's like, oh yeah, so they moved it for him or had him move it. But if I had put mine on the wrong table, how come it was never mentioned before? So, we're actually over. I'm gonna have to stop right now. I didn't realize what time it is. Just talking away. About time to wrap things up, boys and girls. I do got to spend some time with the wife tonight. Yeah. So let's go through. Let me go back up here. Sorry for looking so tired. It's because I am. I've been beat up at work. It's been tiring. So first we had Nigel. Let me go down the list here. Happy Wednesday. And then we had George jump in. And who else? Oh, we had Isaiah. He jumped in. And then after that, we had, Giovanni. I'm sorry, I missed you again. Every time I look down, Giovanni jumps in. I think he's watching me to see what I'm looking down. Sorry, I missed you, Giovanni. I didn't realize you were there. And then we had Julius. And then I think we had one more. Oh, yeah. So we had Boba Central. Thank you for joining again. But as far as that, yeah, that's it. And that's pretty much it. See you next time. Yeah. All right, guys. I will be here next Wednesday. We're still going to be probably finishing up the Ornithopter. I've got figures to start, so depending on how much I get done this week, it's going to be pretty busy as far as that, because we got the last weekend of the fair, and then I got to tear down and try to put all that stuff away so I can get my cars back in the garage. But depending on how much I can get done during the week, I might start painting these figures. Right now they're just primed, so I'll have to airbrush a little bit of the just their faces, really, because the rest of their bodies are covered right up to hands and feet. Everything's gloves, so it's going to be fairly easy painting these suits. The suits are already almost black, so it would be just mostly panel lining, maybe with some gray to bring out the highlights, and then maybe a little bit of dusty dry brushing or something for the suits, and then the faces will be the most detailed that has to be done there. So we'll keep plugging away, and then maybe we'll get a little closer to finishing this project up and get on to the next one, get on to that commission. So anyway, as always, thank you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for this continued support. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and as always, be good humans. That's how we end it. Later, guys.